You know what it means to have a choice between your job and your own child? Jana knew it all too well. She worked as a night cleaner in an office building. She was alone. She had a small daughter named Emma. Emma was 3 years old. Every night, Jana had to leave Emma with her neighbor. But one night was different. The neighbor got sick. Jana had no one to call. She had no money for a babysitter. She had to take Emma with her to work. She hoped no one would see her. But fate had a different plan. That night, the chief executive officer, Thomas Svoboda, stayed in the building too. He walked down the dark hallway. Suddenly, he heard a child crying. He stopped. What happened next changed the lives of both people forever. This is a story about a meeting no one expected, a story that will show you what it really means to be human. Jana Novakova woke up at 6 in the morning like she did every day. The small apartment was quiet except for the soft breathing of her daughter Emma, sleeping in the bed next to hers. They shared a single room in a building on the edge of town where the paint peeled from the walls and the elevator had not worked in 5 years. Jana lay still for a moment, watching her daughter sleep, her tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. Emma had her father's nose, that delicate slope that Jana had loved so much about Martin. 2 years had passed since the accident. 2 years since the police officer knocked on her door at 3 in the morning with news that shattered her world into pieces she was still trying to put back together. Martin had been driving home from his night shift at the factory when a drunk driver ran a red light. He died instantly, they told her, as if that information would somehow make the loss easier to bear. It did not. Nothing made it easier. Jana was 26 years old, 4 months pregnant, and suddenly completely alone in a world that did not pause for grief. She had been studying at the university, working toward a degree in education, dreaming of becoming a teacher. Those dreams ended the night Martin died. There was no money for tuition, no money for rent, no money for the baby coming into a world that had just lost its father. Jana dropped out of school 3 weeks before Emma was born. She took the first job she could find that would pay enough to keep a roof over their heads. That job was cleaning office buildings at night for Svoboda Industries, one of the largest corporations in the city. The work was hard and lonely, but it paid better than waiting tables or working retail, and the night shift meant she could be with Emma during the day. That arrangement only worked because of Mrs. Horakova, the elderly widow who lived in the apartment below theirs. Mrs. Horakova had lost her own husband 10 years ago, and her children lived in different cities, visiting only on holidays. She seemed to find purpose in helping Jana, in watching over Emma while Jana worked through the nights. She never asked for payment beyond the occasional bag of groceries or help with heavy lifting. She loved Emma like a granddaughter, and Emma adored her, calling her Grandma Vera even though they shared no blood. Jana sat up slowly, careful not to wake Emma. She moved through the small kitchen, putting water on to boil for tea. The apartment was sparse but clean. A small table with 2 chairs sat beneath the window. A shelf held a few books, mostly children's stories Jana read to Emma before bed. On the wall hung a single photograph in a simple frame. It showed Martin holding newborn Emma in the hospital, his face bright with joy and wonder, completely unaware that he had only 8 months left to live. Jana looked at that photograph every morning. It reminded her why she kept going, why she dragged herself through exhaustion day after day. She made herself tea and a piece of toast, standing at the counter in the dim morning light. Through the thin walls she could hear her neighbors beginning their days, toilets flushing, televisions turning on, the sounds of a building full of people living separate lives in close proximity. At 7 o'clock, Emma stirred. Jana heard the small rustling sounds before she saw her daughter's head pop up from beneath the blanket, her dark hair wild and tangled from sleep. "Good morning, my little bird," Jana said softly. Emma smiled, that radiant smile that could light up the darkest moments. She climbed out of bed and ran to her mother, wrapping small arms around Jana's legs. "Morning, Mama," she said in her high, sweet voice. They had breakfast together, Emma chattering about the dreams she had, something involving butterflies and a talking cat. Jana listened with the full attention she always gave her daughter during these morning hours. These moments were precious, the time they had together before the demands of the day pulled them in different directions. After breakfast, Jana helped Emma dress in her favorite pink shirt with the flower on it. They brushed teeth together at the small bathroom sink, making faces in the mirror. Then Jana combed the tangles from Emma's hair, while her daughter sat remarkably still, having learned patience beyond her years. By 9 o'clock, they were ready to start their day. Jana took Emma to the small park 3 blocks away, where other mothers and children gathered. Emma played on the swings and the slide, while Jana sat on a bench, watching her daughter laugh and run with the other children. Sometimes the other mothers tried to make conversation, asking about Emma's father, or whether Jana worked. She kept her answers brief. She did not want pity, and she did not want judgment. She simply wanted to get through each day. They returned home around 11. Jana made lunch, simple things like soup and sandwiches. After lunch came the hardest part of the day. Jana needed to sleep. She worked from 10 at night until 6 in the morning, and without sleep during the day, she could not function. Mrs. Horakova would come upstairs and take Emma down to her apartment, where she would keep the child entertained with old photo albums and simple games, while Jana slept in the quiet apartment above. Jana would wake around 5 in the evening, groggy and disoriented. She would collect Emma from downstairs, make dinner, give her daughter a bath, read her stories, and tuck her into bed by 8:30. Then she would prepare for work, packing a simple meal, dressing in the plain grey uniform required by the cleaning company. At 9:30, Mrs. Horakova would arrive to sleep on the couch in case Emma woke during the night. At 9:45, Jana would leave the apartment, walking to the bus stop 3 blocks away. The bus took 40 minutes to reach the business district, where Svoboda Industries occupied a gleaming tower of glass and steel. This had been her routine for nearly 2 years. The same schedule, the same motions, the same exhaustion. But it was survival, and survival was enough. Thomas Svoboda sat in his office on the 42nd floor of the building that bore his family name. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, he could see the entire city spread out before him, lights beginning to twinkle as evening approached. His office was enormous, decorated with expensive art and furniture that cost more than most people earned in a year. A large desk made of dark wood dominated the space. Behind it hung diplomas and awards, evidence of a career built on intelligence and ruthless determination. Thomas was 40 years old, though people often thought he looked older. The stress of running a corporation with 3,000 employees had etched lines into his face. His hair was beginning to gray at the temples. He wore expensive suits tailored perfectly to his frame. Everything about him spoke of success and power. But success and power were lonely companions. Thomas had built Svoboda Industries from almost nothing. His father had been a factory worker, his mother a seamstress. They lived in a small house where money was always tight and dreams were luxuries they could not afford. Thomas had been a brilliant student, earning scholarships that carried him through university and business school. He started his first company at 25, a small tech firm that developed software for manufacturing companies. He worked 18-hour days, sleeping in his office, eating meals from vending machines. The company grew. He made smart decisions and took calculated risks. By 30, he had sold that first company for enough money to start something bigger. Svoboda Industries began as an investment firm, but expanded into real estate, technology, and manufacturing. Thomas had a gift for seeing opportunities others missed. He was fair but demanding with employees. He expected excellence because he gave excellence. The company thrived. Thomas became wealthy beyond his childhood imaginings. He married a woman named Katerina, who came from a family much like his own. People who understood what it meant to build something from nothing. They had a son, Jakub. For a few years, Thomas thought he had everything, but wealth and success demanded sacrifices. Thomas worked constantly, missing school plays and birthday parties, always promising he would be there next time, but rarely keeping that promise. Katerina grew tired of sleeping alone, of raising their son without a partner. She asked for a divorce when Jakub was 12. Thomas did not fight it. He knew she was right. He had chosen his work over his family. Jakub was now 22, living in another city, studying at university. They spoke perhaps once a month, brief conversations that skimmed the surface of real connection. Thomas sent money, and Jakub said thank you, and that was the extent of their relationship. His son was polite, but distant, like someone speaking to a respected stranger rather than a father. Thomas told himself it did not matter. He had his work. The company needed him. But lately the work felt hollow. He would sit in his enormous office looking out at the city and wonder what it was all for. He had money and respect and influence, but he had no one to share dinner with, no one who cared if he came home late or not at all. Most nights he stayed in the office until 9 or 10, reviewing reports and planning strategies, because the empty penthouse apartment waiting for him felt more lonely than his desk. This particular evening, Thomas had a meeting that ran late. A potential merger with a European firm required careful negotiation. The video conference lasted until nearly 10 o'clock. When it finally ended, Thomas leaned back in his chair, feeling the familiar weight of exhaustion. He thought about going home, but the idea held no appeal. Instead, he decided to walk through the building. He did this sometimes, checking on the operations, seeing his empire with his own eyes, rather than through reports and numbers. He took the elevator down to the lower floors, where the administrative offices sat empty and dark. The cleaning crews would be working now, moving through the building like ghosts, making everything pristine for the employees who would arrive in the morning. Thomas rarely encountered the cleaners. They worked in the shadows, invisible by design. He knew the company contracted with a service that employed them, but he had never given much thought to who they were or what their lives might be like. They were simply part of the machinery that kept his world running smoothly. He walked down a hallway on the 23rd floor, his footsteps echoing in the silence. That was when he heard it. A sound that did not belong in this place at this hour. The sound of a child crying. Thomas stopped in the middle of the hallway, his breath catching in his throat. The sound came again, a child's cry, muffled but unmistakable. He turned slowly, trying to locate the source. It seemed to be coming from one of the offices down the hall. His first thought was confusion. There should be no children in this building, especially not at this hour. His second thought was concern. Was a child hurt? Lost? He walked quickly toward the sound, his expensive shoes silent on the carpeted floor. The crying grew louder as he approached a corner office that belonged to one of the senior accountants. The door was partially open, light spilling out into the dark hallway. Thomas pushed the door wider and stopped at the threshold. The scene before him was so unexpected that for a moment he could only stare. A small girl, no more than 3 or 4 years old, sat on the floor beneath a desk. She wore pink pajamas with little flowers on them and held a worn, stuffed bear clutched tightly to her chest. Tears streamed down her round cheeks. Next to her, kneeling on the floor with a cleaning rag still in her hand, was a young woman in a grey uniform. The woman's face was pale with fear as she looked up and saw Thomas standing in the doorway. For a long moment, nobody moved. The child continued to cry softly. The young woman seemed frozen, her eyes wide with terror. Thomas recognized that look. It was the expression of someone who knew they had been caught doing something forbidden and was waiting for the consequences to fall. "I can explain," the woman said finally, her voice trembling. She stood up slowly, positioning herself between Thomas and the child as if to protect her. "Please, I know I should not have brought her here. I know it is against the rules. But I had no choice. My neighbor, who usually watches her, got sick, and I could not miss work. I cannot afford to lose this job. Please." The words tumbled out in a rush, desperation making them almost incoherent. Thomas held up one hand, a gesture meant to calm. He found his voice, though it came out rougher than he intended. "It is all right. I am not going to fire you. Just tell me what happened." The woman took a shaky breath. Her hands were trembling. "My name is Jana Novakova. I work for the cleaning service. This is my daughter, Emma. My neighbor, Mrs. Horakova, usually watches her while I work at night. But she called me just before I left for work tonight. She has the flu and fever. She could not take care of Emma. I called everyone I could think of, but no one was available. I thought about not coming to work, but I already missed 2 shifts last month when Emma was sick. If I miss another one, they will fire me. So I brought her with me. I am so sorry. I thought if I kept her quiet and out of sight, it would be okay. I will leave right now if you want. I will resign. Just please do not report this to the service. I need the reference for my next job." Thomas looked at the child. Emma had stopped crying and was watching him with large, dark eyes full of uncertainty. She held her stuffed bear even tighter. Something about the sight of her, so small and vulnerable in this cold corporate space, stirred something in Thomas that he had not felt in a very long time. "How old is she?" he asked quietly. 3, Jana answered. "She turns 4 next month. Does she understand what is happening?" Jana shook her head. "Not really. She knows we are at my work. I told her it was like an adventure, that she had to be very quiet and very good." She did well for the first few hours, but then she got scared. She woke up from sleeping and did not know where she was. I was in the next room cleaning and I heard her cry. I came as fast as I could. Thomas stepped into the office. Jana tensed but did not move. He walked slowly toward Emma, then crouched down so he was at her eye level. He had not been this close to a small child in years, not since Jakob was young. "Hello, Emma," he said gently. "My name is Thomas." That is a very nice bear you have. What is his name? Emma looked at her mother, seeking permission to speak. Jana nodded slightly. His name is Medved, Emma said in a small voice. It means bear in our language. My papa gave him to me. Tomas felt something twist in his chest. Your papa has good taste. Medved looks like a very brave bear. Is he taking care of you tonight? Emma nodded solemnly. Mama says he protects me when I sleep. Even here. Even here, Emma confirmed. Tomas stood up and turned to Jana. The young woman looked exhausted. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her uniform hung loosely on her thin frame. He could see the fear still etched in every line of her face, the tension in her shoulders. How long have you worked here? He asked. Almost 2 years, Jana said. I started when Emma was 1. Before that, I was at university studying to be a teacher, but my husband died and I had to drop out. This job pays better than most others I could get without a degree. The night shift works well because I can be with Emma during the day. Usually this arrangement works perfectly. Mrs. Horakova has been so good to us. Tonight was just bad luck. Tomas thought about his own life, about the choices he had made, about his son growing up without a father, even though Tomas was still alive. He thought about all the nights he had stayed late at the office by choice, not necessity, while Katerina put Jakub to bed alone. He thought about birthday parties missed, and school plays skipped and promises broken in the name of building an empire. Here was a woman who had no choice but to bring her child to work, who was risking her job and her dignity just to survive, just to keep a roof over her daughter's head. The contrast between her situation and his own excess suddenly seemed obscene. Do you have family who could help? He asked. Anyone else who could watch Emma when your neighbor is unavailable? Jana shook her head. My parents died when I was young. I was raised by my grandmother, but she passed away 3 years ago. Martin's parents live in another country. We have no contact with them. They did not approve of our marriage. I have some friends, but they all work or have their own children to take care of. I manage on my own most of the time. Tonight was just unexpected. Tomas made a decision. He was not sure where it came from, this impulse to help a stranger, but it felt like the first genuine thing he had done in a long time. You are not fired, he said firmly. You are not in trouble. Finish your shift. I will stay here with Emma while you work. Jana stared at him as if he had spoken in a foreign language. What? You cannot. You do not have to do that. I can work with her here. She will be quiet now. I promise. Tomas shook his head. You cannot clean properly while watching a 3-year-old. It is not safe for her, and it is not fair to you. I have nothing else to do tonight. I will stay with her. We will be fine. But you are the owner of the company, Jana said, disbelief clear in her voice. You cannot babysit my daughter. Why not? Tomas asked simply. Do you think I am incapable of watching a child for a few hours? Jana opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I just mean that you must have important things to do. You should not have to waste your time like this. It is not a waste, Tomas said, surprising himself with how much he meant it. Please, let me do this. Consider it my apology for creating a system where a single mother has to choose between her child and her job. That should never happen. Jana's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back quickly, but Tomas saw them. He saw the relief and gratitude and exhaustion all mixed together in her expression. "Are you certain?" she whispered. "I am certain," Thomas said. "Go. Do your work. Emma and I will get to know each other." Jana hesitated for another moment, then nodded. She knelt down next to Emma and stroked her daughter's hair. "Mama has to go clean the other offices now," she said softly. "But Mr. Svoboda is going to stay with you. Is that okay?" Emma looked up at Thomas with those large, serious eyes. "Will you read me a story?" she asked. Thomas felt his heart crack open just a little. "If you have a book, I will read you every story in it," he promised. Emma reached into a small backpack that lay on the floor next to her. She pulled out a worn picture book about a rabbit who wanted to fly. Jana stood up slowly. "Thank you," she said to Thomas. The words were simple, but they carried a weight of emotion that made them feel sacred. "I will never forget this kindness." Thomas nodded. "Just take your time. We will be here." Jana left the office, glancing back once before disappearing into the hallway. Thomas heard her footsteps fade away. He looked down at Emma, who was now holding out the book to him. Thomas took it and sat down on the floor, his back against the desk. Emma settled next to him without hesitation, as if sitting with strange men in empty offices was a perfectly normal thing for a 3-year-old to do. She leaned against his arm, her small body warm and trusting. Thomas opened the book and began to read. His voice, which spent most days barking orders and negotiating deals, softened into something gentle. Emma listened intently, sometimes pointing at pictures and asking questions. They read the book twice. Then Emma yawned and rubbed her eyes. Thomas realized she was fighting sleep. "You can rest if you want," he said. "I will be right here." Emma curled up on the floor, using her backpack as a pillow and clutching Medved to her chest. Within minutes, she was asleep. Thomas sat there in the quiet office, watching this small child breathe. Something was shifting inside him, some wall he had built years ago beginning to crack. He thought about Jana out there, cleaning toilets and mopping floors so her daughter could have food and shelter. He thought about the disparity between their lives, how he had everything, and she had nothing except this sleeping child and a stuffed bear, and the determination to keep going. For the first time in longer than he could remember, Thomas Svoboda felt ashamed of himself, not for his success, but for how blind he had been to the struggles of people like Jana, people who worked in his building and made his comfortable life possible, but remained invisible to him. He stayed there on the floor next to Emma until Jana returned 4 hours later, her work finished. She found them both asleep, Thomas with his head tilted back against the desk, Emma curled against his side. Jana stood in the doorway looking at them, and she began to cry. The sound of her tears woke Thomas. He opened his eyes, disoriented for a moment, his neck stiff from the awkward position. Then he remembered where he was and why. He saw Jana standing in the doorway, her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. He carefully extracted himself from Emma's sleeping form and stood up slowly, his joints protesting. "Jana," he said quietly, not wanting to wake the child. "Are you all right?" She nodded, but could not seem to speak. Thomas walked over to her, maintaining a respectful distance. "I am sorry," Jana finally managed to say, her voice thick with emotion. "I am just so grateful. No one has ever done something like this for me before." Since Martin died, I have been so alone, trying to do everything by myself, and tonight when I thought I would lose this job, I felt like I was drowning. But you helped me. You did not have to, but you did. I do not even know how to thank you properly." Thomas felt uncomfortable with her gratitude. He had done so little, just sat with a child for a few hours. It seemed like the bare minimum of human decency, not something worthy of tears. "You do not need to thank me," he said. "I should thank you." Tonight reminded me of something I had forgotten. Jana wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "What did it remind you of?" "That there are things more important than quarterly earnings and market share," Thomas said. "Your daughter is beautiful. You are doing a wonderful job with her." Jana smiled through her tears. "She is my whole world. Everything I do is for her. I know she deserves better than what I can give her right now. But I promise myself every day that I will make things better. One day, I will finish my degree and become a teacher, and we will have a real home, not just a tiny apartment with peeling paint. One day, I will be able to give her everything she needs." "You are already giving her what she needs most," Thomas said. "You are giving her love and attention and security. Those things matter more than money or big houses." Jana looked at him with surprise. "That is kind of you to say. Most people do not think that way. Most people think money is everything." Thomas thought about his son, Jakub, who had grown up in a mansion with every material comfort, but without a father who was present. "I learned the hard way that money cannot buy the things that actually matter," he said. "I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes, but my son barely speaks to me. I worked so hard to give him a good life that I forgot to actually be part of that life. Now he is grown and gone, and I missed it all." The regret in his voice was raw and honest. Jana heard it. She saw past the expensive suit and the powerful position to the lonely man beneath. "I am sorry," she said softly. "It is not too late, though. You could still reach out to him. Maybe he would welcome that." Thomas shook his head. "I think too much damage has been done. He is polite when we talk, but there is no warmth there. I am like a distant relative to him, not a father. I made my choices, and now I live with them." They stood in silence for a moment. Two people from completely different worlds, finding unexpected common ground in their shared understanding of loss and regret. Emma stirred on the floor, making small sleeping sounds. Jana went to her daughter and knelt down, gently stroking her hair. "Time to wake up, my little bird," she whispered. "We need to go home now." Emma's eyes fluttered open. She looked confused for a moment, then saw her mother and smiled. "Mama," she said sleepily, "did you finish all your work?" "I did," Jana said, "thanks to Mr. Svoboda, who took such good care of you." Emma sat up and looked around until she found Thomas. She gave him a shy smile. "Thank you for reading to me," she said. "You are very welcome," Thomas replied. "Maybe we can read together again sometime. Would you like that?" Emma nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, please." Jana gathered their things, putting the book back in the backpack, along with Medved the bear. She helped Emma stand up and smoothed down her pajamas. Thomas walked with them to the elevator. As they waited for it to arrive, he made another decision, one that surprised him as much as his earlier offer to watch Emma. "Jana," he said, "would you be willing to meet with me tomorrow? During the day, I mean, when you are not working. I would like to discuss something with you. Jana looked uncertain. What kind of something? An opportunity, Thomas said. I am not sure of all the details yet, but I have an idea that might benefit both of us. Will you at least hear me out? Jana hesitated. She had learned to be wary of offers that seemed too good to be true. But there was something sincere in Thomas's expression, something that made her want to trust him. Okay, she said slowly. I can meet you. Where and when? There is a small cafe 2 blocks from here, Thomas said. Do you know the one called Morning Light? Jana nodded. She had walked past it many times, but never gone inside. The prices were too high for her budget. Tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon, Thomas said. I will buy you lunch and we can talk. Please bring Emma if you need to. She is welcome. The elevator arrived and the doors opened. Jana and Emma stepped inside. Thank you again, Jana said, for everything tonight. Thomas watched as the doors closed, hiding them from view. He stood there alone in the empty hallway, feeling more awake and alive than he had felt in months. He did not go home that night. Instead, he went back to his office and sat at his desk thinking. The meeting with Jana had stirred something in him, some long, dormant part of his conscience that was finally waking up. He thought about the company he had built, about the 3,000 people who worked for him. How many of them were struggling like Jana? How many were one sick neighbor away from losing everything? He had always prided himself on running an ethical company, on paying fair wages and providing good benefits. But clearly it was not enough if a woman working for his contracted cleaning service had to bring her child to work or risk being fired. He pulled up the contract with the cleaning service on his computer and began to read through it carefully. The more he read, the more disturbed he became. The service paid minimum wage. There were no benefits, no sick days, no health insurance. The workers were treated as expendable, easily replaced if they caused any problems. Thomas had signed this contract 3 years ago without really thinking about it. He had been focused on keeping costs down, on maximizing efficiency. He had not considered the human cost of those decisions. He spent the rest of the night researching, looking up information about working conditions for cleaning staff, reading articles about the struggles of single parents, educating himself about a reality he had been insulated from by his wealth and privilege. By the time the sun rose over the city, Thomas had made several decisions. The first was that he would terminate the contract with the current cleaning service and bring those workers in-house, making them direct employees of Svoboda, Boda Industries, with full benefits and fair wages. The second was that he would create a child care center in the building, free for any employee who needed it. The third was that he would offer Jana a different job, something that paid better and had normal daytime hours so she could be with her daughter at night. He did not know yet if Jana would accept. He did not know if these changes would make a real difference, but he knew he had to try. For the first time in years, Thomas felt like he was doing something that mattered, something that went beyond profit margins and stock prices. He thought about Emma's small hand holding the book, about her trust in a stranger, about Jana's tears of gratitude for such a simple act of kindness. Those images would stay with him, he knew. They had already changed something fundamental in how he saw the world. At 1 in the afternoon, Thomas left his office and went home to shower and change. He put on casual clothes, jeans, and a simple shirt, wanting to seem less intimidating for his meeting with Jana. He arrived at Morning Light Cafe at 1:45 and chose a table by the window. The cafe was quiet at this hour, the lunch rush over, only a few other customers scattered around the room. At exactly 2 o'clock, Jana arrived. She was holding Emma's hand. Both of them had dressed carefully, Jana in a simple blue dress that looked old but clean, Emma in a yellow dress with white flowers. They both looked nervous. Thomas stood and waved them over. Jana walked to the table with Emma close beside her. "Please sit," Thomas said, pulling out chairs for them. "Have you eaten lunch yet?" Jana shook her head. "We had a snack at home, but nothing substantial." "Then let us order food first," Thomas said. He handed Jana a menu. "Order whatever you like, both of you." Jana looked at the prices and winced. Thomas saw her expression. "Please," he said gently, "it is my treat. Do not worry about the cost. Order what sounds good." Jana ordered a sandwich and soup. Emma wanted pasta with butter and cheese, one of the few things on the menu simple enough for a child. Thomas ordered the same sandwich as Jana. While they waited for the food, Emma colored on a paper placemat the waitress had brought for her. Jana sat with her hands folded in her lap, clearly uncomfortable, but trying not to show it. "I want to make you an offer," Thomas began. "But first I need to tell you that you are under no obligation to accept. If you say no, nothing changes. You still have your cleaning job, and there will be no negative consequences for turning me down. Do you understand?" Jana nodded slowly. "I understand." "Good," Thomas said. "Here is what I am thinking. My company needs an office coordinator for one of our departments. It is an administrative position, answering phones, scheduling meetings, organizing files, that kind of thing. The hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. It pays 3 times what you make cleaning. It comes with full benefits, including health insurance, paid sick days, and vacation time. I would like to offer you that job." Jana stared at him. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Thomas continued. "I know you do not have a college degree, and normally we require one for this position. But I am willing to waive that requirement. I will also arrange for the company to pay for you to take classes part-time if you want to finish your education degree. We have a program that covers tuition for employees who want to advance their skills." Jana found her voice, finally. "Why would you do this for me? You do not even know me." "I know enough," Thomas said. "I know you are hard-working and responsible. I know you are dedicated to your daughter. I know you showed up to work even when it meant bringing a child with you because you could not afford to lose the job. Those qualities tell me you would be an excellent employee. But there is more to it than that," he admitted. "Last night changed something for me. It made me realize how disconnected I have become from the reality of what life is like for most people. It made me see that I have the power to make things better, and I have not been using that power. Helping you is a start." Jana sat very still, processing what Thomas had just said. 3 times her current salary, health insurance, the ability to see Emma off to school in the morning and be home for dinner at night. It sounded like a dream, too perfect to be real. "What if I am not good at it?" she asked quietly. "What if I fail?" "Then we will train you until you succeed," Thomas said. "Everyone needs time to learn a new job. I am not expecting perfection on day 1. I am expecting effort and willingness to learn. I know you have both of those qualities." The food arrived, and they ate in silence for a few minutes. Emma happily twirled pasta on her fork, getting sauce on her chin. Jana wiped it away with a napkin, her mind clearly elsewhere. Thomas waited patiently. He could see her working through the offer, looking for the catch, trying to understand why this was happening. Finally, Jana looked up at him. "I accept," she said. Her voice was firm, despite the tears gathering in her eyes. "I accept your offer, and I promise I will work harder than anyone else in that office. I will not let you down." "I know you will not," Thomas said. He felt a warmth spreading through his chest, a satisfaction that had nothing to do with closing a business deal and everything to do with knowing he had just changed someone's life for the better. "When can you start?" "I need to give notice to the cleaning service," Jana said. 2 weeks is standard." "That is fine," Thomas said. "But I want you to stop working nights immediately. I will pay you for those 2 weeks anyway. You need to rest and spend time with Emma and prepare for your new position." Jana shook her head. "I cannot accept payment for work I did not do. That would not be right." "Consider it a signing bonus," Thomas said. "Please, Jana. Let me do this. You have been running yourself into the ground. Take the time to recover." Jana hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Okay. Thank you." "There is one more thing," Thomas said. "I am going to create a child care center in the Svoboda Industries building. It will be free for all employees. Emma can stay there during the day while you work. There will be qualified caregivers, educational activities, everything she needs. It will take a few weeks to set up, but once it is ready, she will have a safe place to be while you are working." "You would do that?" Jana asked. "Create a whole child care center?" "Not just for me," Thomas said. "For all the employees have children. I have been researching and I found that many companies see productivity increases when they provide childcare. Parents are less stressed and less distracted. But honestly, even if it did not help productivity, I would still do it. It is the right thing to do." Jana reached across the table and took his hand. Her grip was strong despite her small frame. "You are a good man, Thomas Svoboda," she said. "Better than you know." "I hope that is true," Thomas replied. "I am trying to be." They finished their lunch, and Thomas walked them to the bus stop. Before Jana left, she turned to him one more time. "Why me?" she asked. "There must be hundreds of people working in your building who need help. Why did you choose to help me specifically?" "Because I met you," Thomas said simply. "Because I saw your daughter, and I saw your struggle, and I could not look away. Maybe that makes me selfish, that I only care when something is right in front of my face. But I am going to try to do better. This is just the beginning." Jana nodded. "Then I am grateful I brought Emma to work that night, even though I was terrified. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best changes." Thomas watched their bus pull away, Jana and Emma visible through the window. Emma waved at him, and he waved back. Then they were gone, and he was alone on the street corner, but he did not feel lonely. He felt purposeful. The next 2 weeks passed quickly. Thomas threw himself into the changes he wanted to make. He met with his legal team to discuss terminating the cleaning service contract and bringing those workers in-house. There was pushback from his chief financial officer, who worried about the increased costs. "We can afford it," Thomas said firmly. "And more than that, we have a moral obligation to treat the people who work in our building with dignity and fairness. This is not negotiable." The CFO backed down. Thomas had final authority, and everyone knew it. He met with architects and designers to discuss the childcare center. He wanted it to be bright and welcoming, a place where children would feel safe and happy. He allocated a large space on the third floor that had been used for storage. Within days, construction crews were gutting the space and beginning renovations. He also reached out to Jakub. He called his son one evening, his heart pounding with nervousness. Jakub answered on the fourth ring. "Hello, father," he said. His tone was polite but distant as always. "Hello, Jakub," Thomas said. "I know we usually only talk once a month, but I wanted to call you. I have been thinking about some things and I realized I owe you an apology." Jakub was silent for a moment. "An apology for what?" "For not being the father you needed," Thomas said. "For choosing work over you so many times. For missing your childhood because I was too focused on building a company. I cannot change the past, but I want you to know that I see now how badly I failed you. I am sorry." The silence stretched longer this time. Thomas waited, barely breathing. "I appreciate you saying that," Jakub finally said. His voice was carefully controlled. "It means something to hear it. But you are right. You cannot change the past." "I know," Thomas said. "But maybe we could work on the future. I would like to see you more often. Maybe you could come visit sometime. We could have dinner and actually talk. Not just surface conversation, but real talk." "I do not know, Dad," Jakub said. There was pain in the word Dad, as if it hurt to say it. "We do not really know each other anymore. I understand if you need time," Thomas said, "or if you are not ready to try. But the offer stands. Whenever you want to reach out, I will be here. I promise I will make the effort this time." "Okay," Jakub said. "I will think about it." That was all Thomas could ask for. They said goodbye and hung up. Thomas sat in his office holding the phone, feeling the weight of all the lost years. He could not fix his relationship with Jakub overnight. Maybe he could not fix it at all. But at least he had acknowledged the problem. At least he had tried. Jana spent her 2 weeks preparing for the new job. She bought professional clothes from a thrift store, spending more money than she wanted to, but knowing it was necessary. She practiced typing on Mrs. Horakova's old computer to improve her speed. She read articles about office etiquette and professional communication. She was determined to be ready. Mrs. Horakova was thrilled by Jana's good fortune. "Oh, my dear girl," she said, when Jana told her the news. "This is wonderful. You deserve this so much. You work so hard. Now life is finally giving you something back." "I am scared," Jana admitted. "What if I am not smart enough for this job? What if everyone there looks down on me? Because I do not have a degree?" "You are one of the smartest people I know," Mrs. Horakova said firmly. "You survived things that would have broken most people. You raised a beautiful daughter on your own. You never gave up even when everything seemed hopeless. That takes more intelligence and strength than any college degree. You will do brilliantly." Jana hugged the older woman tightly. "Thank you for everything you have done for us," she whispered. "I could not have made it through these years without you." "We take care of each other," Mrs. Horakova said. "That is what people do when they love each other." On Jana's first day at Svobogoda Industries, she woke up early, too nervous to sleep. She dressed carefully in a grey skirt and white blouse. She made breakfast for Emma, her hands shaking slightly. "Mama." "Why are you so nervous?" Emma asked, watching her mother with concerned eyes. "Because I'm starting a new job today," Jana said. "It is a very important job, and I want to do well." "You will do great," Emma said, with the absolute confidence of a child. You are the best mamma in the whole world, so you will be the best at your job too." Jana smiled despite her nerves. "Thank you, my little bird. That makes me feel better." They left the apartment together at 8:30. Jana dropped Emma off at a small preschool she had enrolled her in, using some of the advance money Thomas had given her. In a few weeks, Emma would transfer to the new childcare center at Svoboda Industries, but for now this would do. Jana took the bus to the office building, arriving 15 minutes early. She stood outside, looking up at the glass and steel tower, so different from the last time she had been here, sneaking in through the service entrance in her cleaning uniform. Now she was walking through the front doors in professional clothes, an employee with a real position and a future. The security guard at the desk checked her name on a list and gave her a visitor badge. "Someone from Human Resources will be down to get you in a moment," he said. Jana waited in the lobby, watching well-dressed people hurry past with briefcases and coffee cups. Everyone looked so confident and purposeful. She felt completely out of place. A young woman appeared and introduced herself as Rebecca from HR. She led Jana upstairs to the 15th floor, where the marketing department was located. "This is where you will be working," Rebecca explained. "Your supervisor is Linda Chen. She is expecting you." Linda turned out to be a woman in her 50s, with short grey hair and a kind smile. She shook Jana's hand warmly. "Welcome," she said. "Thomas told me about you. I am very glad you are joining our team." "Thank you," Jana said. "I will work very hard." "I am sure you will," Linda said. "Let me show you to your desk and we can get started." The desk was in a small cubicle near the window. It had a computer, a phone, and a small plant someone had left as a welcome gift. Jana sat down in the chair and looked around at her new workspace. It was not fancy, but it was clean and professional, and it was hers. Linda spent the morning training Jana on the phone system and the computer programs she would need to use. Jana took careful notes, asking questions when she did not understand something. Linda was patient and encouraging. "You are picking this up very quickly," she said. "I can tell you are going to do just fine here." At lunch, Jana ate the sandwich she had packed at her desk, too nervous to go to the cafeteria. She was just finishing when Thomas appeared at her cubicle. "How is your first day going?" he asked. "It is good," Jana said. "Everyone has been very kind. Linda is a wonderful teacher." Thomas smiled. "I am glad to hear it. If you need anything at all, you can come directly to my office. My door is always open to you." Jana nodded. "That means a lot. Thank you." Over the following weeks, Jana settled into her new role. The work was challenging, but not overwhelming. She answered phones with a professional courtesy that impressed Linda. She organized files with meticulous attention to detail. She learned the names of everyone in the department and made an effort to be friendly without being intrusive. The other employees were curious about her at first. Word had spread that she was someone Thomas himself had hired, someone he had personally helped. There were whispers and speculation. Some people thought she must be connected to him somehow, maybe a relative or the daughter of an old friend. Others assumed there must be some romantic interest, though Thomas had never shown interest in any employee before. Jana ignored the gossip. She kept her head down and focused on her work. She was polite to everyone, but did not try to explain her situation. It was private and personal, and she did not owe anyone an explanation. Gradually the whispers died down, as people saw that Jana was simply a good worker who did her job well. She made no demands for special treatment. She did not act entitled or superior. She was just a quiet, competent woman who happened to have been given an opportunity and was determined to make the most of it. The childcare center opened 6 weeks after Jana started working. It was beautiful, everything Thomas had promised and more. Bright colors on the walls, educational toys and books, a small playground area with soft flooring. There were 4 caregivers, all experienced and qualified, all genuinely caring people who loved working with children. Emma was enchanted from the first day. She made friends quickly, playing with the other children during the day, while Jana worked upstairs. Jana could visit during her lunch break, going down to the 3rd floor to see her daughter and make sure she was happy. Every time she saw Emma laughing and playing with the other children, safe and cared for, Jana felt her heart expand with gratitude. The arrangement worked perfectly. Jana no longer had to rush in the mornings to drop Emma at preschool before catching the bus. Now they could walk to work together, hand in hand, talking about what they would do that evening. Emma loved having her mother close by, even if they were on different floors. "Mama works upstairs," she would tell the other children proudly. "And when work is done, we go home together." Jana began to feel something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Real hope for the future, not just desperate day-to-day survival. She was saving money for the first time in years. She was sleeping through the night instead of working. She had time and energy to play with Emma, to read her stories, to simply enjoy being her mother instead of constantly worrying about making ends meet. 3 months into her new job, Jana enrolled in online classes to finish her education degree. Svoboda Industries paid the tuition, as Thomas had promised. She took 1 class at a time, studying in the evenings after Emma went to bed. It was slow progress, but it was progress. She was moving toward her dream again. Thomas watched Jana's transformation with quiet satisfaction. He checked in with Linda regularly to see how Jana was performing. Linda had nothing but praise. "She is one of the best hires we have made in years," Linda told him. "Reliable, detail-oriented, pleasant to work with. The whole department loves her." But Thomas noticed something else happening too. The changes he had made for Jana had rippled outward. The childcare center was being used by 15 families now, and more employees were inquiring about it. Parents who had been stressed and distracted were more focused and productive. The decision to bring the cleaning staff in-house as direct employees had also had unexpected benefits. With better pay and benefits, the turnover rate dropped dramatically. The building was cleaner than it had ever been because the workers took pride in their jobs. Morale improved across the company. Other employees saw that management was willing to invest in worker well-being, and it changed the atmosphere. People felt valued. The company culture shifted from purely profit-driven to something more humane. Thomas shared what he had done in an interview with a business magazine. The article focused on how small changes in corporate policy could create significant positive impacts. Other business leaders read it, and some began implementing similar programs. Thomas received emails from executives asking for advice on starting childcare programs or improving benefits for lower-wage workers. He answered every email personally, sharing what he had learned. But the change that mattered most to Thomas was personal. His relationship with Jakub was slowly, tentatively improving. His son had agreed to visit for a weekend 2 months after their phone conversation. The visit had been awkward at first, both of them unsure how to talk to each other after so many years of distance. But Thomas made a genuine effort. He did not talk about work. He asked Jakub about his studies, his interests, his life. He listened more than he spoke. They went to dinner at a small restaurant, not one of the expensive places Thomas usually frequented, but a casual spot Jakub suggested. They talked about simple things, music and movies and books. They found common ground in unexpected places. Jakub mentioned that he was thinking about becoming a teacher. He wanted to work with at-risk youth, kids who were struggling like he had struggled emotionally, even though his struggles were different. "I think I could make a difference," Jakub said. "I know what it feels like to have material comfort, but emotional emptiness. I want to help kids who are dealing with the opposite, poverty and hardship, and show them that education can be a way out." Thomas felt pride swell in his chest. "That is important work," he said. "More important than anything I have ever done. You will be an excellent teacher." "You think so?" Jakub asked. He sounded surprised, as if he had expected criticism or dismissal. "I know so," Thomas said. "You have empathy and intelligence, and a genuine desire to help people. Those are the qualities that make great teachers." Jakub smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "Thanks, Dad. That means a lot coming from you." They did not solve all their problems that weekend. Years of hurt and neglect could not be healed in 2 days. But it was a start. When Jakub left to return to university, they hugged, brief and slightly awkward, but genuine. "I will call you next week," Jakub said. Thomas nodded, not trusting himself to speak without his voice breaking. Jakub kept his promise. He called the following week, and they talked for an hour. The calls became regular, every week or two, conversations that gradually deepened as they learned to trust each other again. Thomas told Jakub about Jana and Emma, about how meeting them had changed his perspective on everything. "He is really trying to be better," Jakub told his mother Katerina during one of his visits with her. "I have never seen him like this before. He seems actually happy for the first time I can remember." Katerina listened with interest. "What brought this on?" she asked. "He met someone," Jakub said. "Not romantically. A woman who works for him, a single mother who was struggling. Helping her seems to have opened something up in him. He is trying to make amends for the past." "Good," Katerina said simply. She had long ago let go of her anger toward Thomas. Their marriage had not worked, but she did not wish him ill. "I hope he finds peace." "I think he is starting to," Jakub said. "And I think I might be ready to give him a real chance at being my father again." Katerina hugged her son. "I am glad. Everyone deserves a second chance, especially people who are genuinely trying to change." Jana was unaware of the impact she had on Thomas's personal life. She knew he checked in on her occasionally, stopping by her cubicle to say hello or asking Linda about her progress. She knew he had been kind to her, beyond anything she could have expected. But she did not know that meeting her had fundamentally altered the trajectory of his life. She focused on her own life, on being the best employee she could be, on being a good mother to Emma, on taking her classes and working toward her degree. She made a friend at work, a woman named Sarah who worked in accounting. Sarah was 10 years older than Jana, divorced with 2 teenage children. She had a dry sense of humor that made Jana laugh. They started having lunch together, sitting in the cafeteria and talking about their lives. Sarah was the first real friend Jana had made since Martin died. It felt good to have someone to talk to, someone who understood the challenges of being a working mother. One day Sarah asked Jana the question everyone seemed to want to know. "How did you end up working here? I heard Thomas Svoboda personally hired you. That is not something he normally does." Jana hesitated. She had kept the story private until now, but Sarah had become a genuine friend, and she felt safe sharing with her. "My daughter got sick, and I had no one to watch her," Jana said slowly. "I was working as a night cleaner in this building. I brought Emma with me, thinking I could keep her hidden. But Thomas found us. I thought I would be fired. Instead, he watched her while I finished my work. Then he offered me this job." Sarah stared at her. "He watched your daughter? The CEO of a major corporation babysat your child?" Jana nodded. "I know it sounds unbelievable. But he did. He sat with her for hours and read her stories. When I came back to get her, they had both fallen asleep on the floor. It was the kindest thing anyone has ever done. For me." Sarah was quiet for a moment, processing this. "That explains a lot," she said finally. "What do you mean?" Jana asked. "There have been so many changes around here in the past few months," Sarah said. "The childcare center, better benefits, bringing the cleaning staff in-house. People have been wondering what prompted it all. It was you. You and your daughter reminded him what actually matters." "I do not think I did anything," Jana said. "I was just desperate, and he helped me." "Sometimes that is enough," Sarah said. "Sometimes one moment of real human connection can change everything. Do not underestimate the impact you had." Jana thought about Sarah's words that evening as she made dinner for Emma. The idea that she had changed anything seemed impossible. She was just one person trying to survive and take care of her child. But maybe Sarah was right. Maybe sometimes change came from unexpected places, from small moments that seemed insignificant at the time, but rippled outward in ways no one could predict. 6 months after starting her job at Svoboda Industries, Jana received her first performance review. Linda called her into a small conference room and closed the door. Jana's heart pounded. She still carried the fear of losing everything, of one mistake destroying the life she had built. But Linda was smiling. "Jana, your work has been exceptional," Linda said. "You have exceeded every expectation. Your attention to detail is remarkable, and your interactions with everyone in the department have been professional and warm. I am very pleased with your performance." "Thank you," Jana said, relief washing over her. "I have tried my best." "It shows," Linda said. "Because of your excellent performance, I am giving you a raise effective immediately. 10% increase in salary. Also, Thomas has asked me to tell you that the company will now cover the cost of 2 classes per semester, instead of 1 if you want to accelerate your degree completion." Jana felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back. "That is very generous." "You have earned it," Linda said. "Keep doing what you are doing, and I think you have a bright future here." Jana left the meeting feeling like she was floating. A raise meant she could save even more money. Maybe she could afford to move to a better apartment, something with 2 bedrooms, so Emma could have her own room. Maybe she could buy Emma some new clothes instead of relying on hand-me-downs from neighbors. The possibilities seemed endless. That evening she told Emma about the raise. Emma was 4 now, old enough to understand that money meant they could have things they needed. "Does this mean we are rich now, Mama?" Emma asked with wide eyes. "No, my little bird," Jana said, laughing. "We are not rich, but we are doing better than we were. We are going to be okay." Emma hugged her mother tightly. "I am glad. I like being okay." Jana held her daughter close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling the solid warmth of her small body. Everything she had been through, all the struggle and fear and exhaustion, it had all been worth it to give Emma a chance at a good life. Around this same time, Thomas faced a crisis at work. A major deal he had been negotiating for months fell through at the last minute. The other company backed out, choosing to partner with a competitor instead. It was a significant loss, one that would impact Svobodu, the industry's quarterly earnings, and potentially its stock price. The old Thomas would have been consumed by this failure. He would have worked around the clock trying to salvage something from the wreckage, would have berated the team responsible, would have let the stress poison every other aspect of his life. But the new Thomas, the one who had learned to value things beyond profit margins, handled it differently. He called a meeting with his executive team. They sat around the conference table looking nervous, waiting for him to explode. Instead, Thomas spoke calmly. "This deal did not work out," he said. "That is disappointing, but it is not the end of the world. We will analyze what went wrong, learn from it, and move forward. I want a full report on why the other company chose our competitor, but I do not want anyone blaming themselves or each other. These things happen in business. We will recover." The executives exchanged surprised glances. They had been expecting fury. This measured response was unexpected. Thomas continued, "I also want to say that I appreciate all the work everyone put into this deal. The effort was not wasted even though we did not get the outcome we wanted. You all performed your jobs well. The failure was not due to lack of trying. Thank you for your dedication." The meeting ended, and people filed out, still looking slightly shocked. Thomas's second-in-command, a man named Pavel who had worked with him for 15 years, stayed behind. "What happened to you?" Pavel asked. 6 months ago, you would have been throwing things over a loss like this. Now you are thanking people and talking about learning from failure. Who are you and what did you do with Thomas Svoboda?" Thomas smiled. "I grew up, Pavel. Better late than never." Pavel studied him for a moment. "It is because of that woman, is it not? Jana Novakova. I have heard the story about how you met her. People say helping her changed you." Thomas nodded. "She reminded me what actually matters. Business deals come and go. Money gets made and lost. But the way we treat people, the way we show up for each other, that is what lasts. I lost sight of that for a long time. I am trying to do better now." "Good," Pavel said. "For what it is worth. I like this version of you better. So does everyone else around here. The company culture has completely changed. People actually want to come to work now. That is worth more than any deal." Thomas took Pavel's words to heart. The failed deal still stung, but it did not consume him. He went home at a reasonable hour that evening, instead of working late. He called Jakub, and they talked for an hour about nothing important, just father and son, enjoying each other's company. The next day, Thomas visited the childcare center during his lunch break. He had gotten into the habit of stopping by once or twice a week. The children were always excited to see him. They knew him as the friendly man who sometimes came to read stories or help with art projects. Emma spotted him immediately and ran over. "Mr. Svoboda," she called out. "You came to visit." "I did," Thomas said, crouching down to her level. "How are you today, Emma?" "I am very good," Emma said. "We are making pictures of our families. Do you want to see mine?" She led him over to a table where a piece of paper was covered in crayon drawings. There was a tall figure labeled Mama and a smaller figure labeled Me. Between them was a stuffed bear. "That is Medved," Emma explained. He is part of our family." "It is a beautiful picture," Thomas said. "Your mama is very lucky to have you." "I am lucky to have her, too," Emma said seriously. "She takes care of me and loves me very much. Even when she is tired, she still plays with me and reads me stories. That is what good mamas do." Thomas felt his throat tighten with emotion. "You are very wise for someone so young," he managed to say. Emma beamed at the compliment. Then she asked, "Do you have a family, Mr. Svoboda?" "I have a son," Thomas said. "His name is Jakub. He is grown up now, in university." Emma considered this. "Does he visit you?" "Not as much as I would like," Thomas admitted. "But we are working on spending more time together." "You should tell him to visit more," Emma said, with the absolute certainty of a child who had not yet learned that adult relationships were complicated. "Family is important. You are absolutely right," Thomas said. "I will tell him that." He stayed for another 20 minutes, helping some of the other children with their art projects, before returning to his office. The visit left him feeling peaceful in a way that business meetings never did. As autumn turned to winter, Jana continued to thrive in her position. She had been with the company for 8 months now, and felt like a completely different person from the exhausted night cleaner who had smuggled her daughter into the building in desperation. She had confidence now. She spoke up in meetings with ideas and suggestions. Linda had started giving her more responsibilities, trusting her to handle complex projects. Jana discovered she was good at organizing systems and solving logistical problems. She found satisfaction in making processes more efficient. One afternoon, Linda called her into the office again. "Jana, I have been thinking about your career development," Linda said. "You have been doing such excellent work that I believe you are ready for a promotion. What would you say to becoming the assistant department manager? It would come with another salary increase and more responsibility. You would help me oversee the team and manage larger projects." Jana was stunned. A promotion already? She had only been there 8 months. "Are you certain I am ready for that?" Linda nodded. "I am certain. You have natural leadership abilities, and people respect you. I think you would be excellent in this role. Of course, if you need time to think about it, I understand." "No," Jana said quickly. "I do not need time." "I accept." "Thank you, Linda. This means everything to me." Linda smiled warmly. "You have earned this, Jana. Never doubt that." Jana left the office and immediately went to find Sarah to share the news. Sarah hugged her enthusiastically. "This is wonderful," Sarah said. "You deserve this so much. I told you that you were going to go far here." Jana felt tears of joy streaming down her face. She did not even try to hide them. "I never thought my life could be like this," she said. "After Martin died, I thought I would just be surviving forever, barely making it through each day. But now I have a career and a future, and I can provide a real life for Emma. It feels like a miracle." "It is not a miracle," Sarah said gently. "It is hard work and determination, and seizing the opportunity when it came. You did this, Jana. Give yourself credit." That evening, Jana took Emma out for dinner to celebrate, a rare treat. They went to a family restaurant and ordered whatever they wanted without worrying about the cost. Emma had chicken fingers and French fries and chocolate ice cream for dessert. Jana watched her daughter's happiness and felt her heart swell with love and gratitude. When they got home, Mrs. Horakova came upstairs to hear the news. The elderly woman embraced Jana tightly. "I am so proud of you, my dear girl," she said. "You have come so far. Your husband would be so proud, too." Jana thought about Martin, about the photograph she still kept on her wall. She liked to think he was watching over them somehow, that he knew Emma was safe and loved, and that Jana had found a way to build a good life for their daughter. "I hope he is proud," Jana said softly. "I am doing my best to honor his memory by taking care of our little bird." "You are doing more than your best," Mrs. Horakova said. "You are doing beautifully." The winter brought unexpected challenges. Just after the new year began, Jana received a phone call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and she was at her desk organizing schedules when her personal phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but local, so she answered. "Hello, is this Jana Novakova?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes, this is she," Jana replied. "My name is Dr. Petra Kralova. I am calling from the medical center. We have your neighbor, Mrs. Vera Horakova, here. She was brought in by ambulance this morning after a fall in her apartment. She listed you as her emergency contact." Jana's heart dropped. "Is she all right? What happened?" "She fell down the stairs," the doctor said. "She has a broken hip and some bruising. We are going to need to do surgery to repair the hip. She is stable, but she will need to stay in the hospital for several days and then will require significant recovery time at home. She will not be able to manage stairs for quite a while." Jana felt panic rising in her chest. Mrs. Horakova was more than a neighbor. She was family. The thought of her hurt and in pain was unbearable. "Can I come see her?" "Of course," the doctor said. "She has been asking for you." Visiting hours are until 8 this evening. Jana told Linda she had a family emergency and needed to leave early. Linda was understanding and told her to take whatever time she needed. Jana picked up Emma from the child care center, and they took a taxi to the hospital, something Jana would normally never spend money on. But time was more important than cost right now. They found Mrs. Horakova in a hospital bed, looking small and frail. Her face was bruised, and she seemed to have aged 10 years since Jana had seen her that morning. "Oh, Vera," Jana said, taking the older woman's hand gently. "I am so sorry this happened." Mrs. Horakova managed a weak smile. "I am a foolish old woman. I was carrying laundry down the stairs, and I missed a step. I should have been more careful." "You are not foolish," Jana said. "Accidents happen. What matters is that you are going to be okay. The doctor said you will need surgery." "Yes," Mrs. Horakova said. "Tomorrow morning. They say the recovery will take months. I will not be able to go up and down stairs for a long time. I do not know what I will do. My apartment is on the 2nd floor." "We will figure something out," Jana promised. "Maybe you can stay with us while you recover. Our apartment is small, but we will make it work." Mrs. Horakova shook her head. "You are sweet to offer, but I could not impose like that. You barely have room for yourself and Emma. Besides, you need to work. You cannot take care of an invalid and hold down a job and raise a child all at once." "We will find a way," Jana insisted. "You have done so much for us over the years. Let us help you now." They talked for another hour until Mrs. Horakova grew tired. Jana promised to return the next day after the surgery. On the taxi ride home, Emma was quiet. Finally, she asked, "Is Grandma Vera going to die?" "No, my little bird," Jana said, though her heart ached at the fear in her daughter's voice. "She is hurt, but she is going to get better. It will just take time." Emma seemed reassured by this. Jana wished she felt as certain. The truth was that Mrs. Horakova was 78 years old, and a broken hip at that age could be very serious. The surgery went well the next day, but recovery was slow. Mrs. Horakova stayed in the hospital for a week. Jana visited every evening after work, bringing Emma along. They would sit by the hospital bed, and Emma would tell Mrs. Horakova about her day at the childcare center, chattering about her friends and the games they played. Mrs. Horakova would listen with a smile, clearly treasuring these visits. When the hospital finally discharged Mrs. Horakova, the problem of where she would live became urgent. The social worker explained that she would need physical therapy and help with daily tasks. She could not manage stairs, and she could not live alone. "There is a rehabilitation facility that could take her," the social worker said. "It is covered by her insurance. She would stay there for several weeks while she does intensive physical therapy." Jana discussed this with Mrs. Horakova. "I do not want to go to one of those places," the older woman said. "I have heard stories. They are depressing and the staff is overworked. I would rather take my chances at home." "But you cannot go home," Jana said gently. "Not to your apartment. There are too many stairs and no one to help you. What if you stayed with us? I know our place is tiny, but we can put a bed in the living room for you. Emma and I will take care of you." Mrs. Horakova's eyes filled with tears. "You would do that for me?" "Of course we would," Jana said. "You are family." Mrs. Horakova came home with them the next day. Jana had rearranged the small apartment, moving furniture to make room for a rented hospital bed in the living room. It was cramped and awkward, but it worked. Over the following weeks, Jana's life became even more complicated. She would wake up early to help Mrs. Horakova with her morning routine before getting Emma ready for the day. She would prepare breakfast for all three of them. Then she would help Mrs. Horakova get settled with everything she might need during the day before taking Emma to the childcare center and going to work herself. At lunch, she would rush home to check on Mrs. Horakova and make sure she had eaten and taken her medication. After work, she would pick up Emma, come home, make dinner, help Mrs. Horakova with her evening routine, get Emma ready for bed, and finally collapse into her own bed, exhausted. The physical therapist came 3 times a week to work with Mrs. Horakova. Progress was slow. The older woman was in pain and frustrated by her limitations. Jana tried to stay positive and encouraging, but the strain was beginning to show. At work, Linda noticed that Jana looked tired. "Is everything all right?" she asked one day. "You seem exhausted." Jana explained the situation with Mrs. Horakova. Linda listened with concern. "That is a lot to handle," she said. "Are you managing okay?" "I am managing," Jana said. "I just need to get through the next few weeks until Vera is more mobile. But honestly, it is hard. I feel like I am barely keeping my head above water." "Have you thought about getting additional help?" Linda asked. "A home health aide, maybe?" Jana shook her head. "I cannot afford that. The little money I have saved needs to be for emergencies." Linda was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Let me talk to Thomas. Maybe the company can help." "No," Jana said quickly. "He has already done so much for me. I cannot keep asking for help." "You are not asking," Linda pointed out. "I am offering to see if there are resources available. Just let me talk to him." Jana reluctantly agreed. That afternoon, Linda went to Thomas's office and explained Jana's situation. Thomas listened intently. "How is Jana holding up?" he asked. She is struggling, Linda said. She is trying to do everything herself, and it is taking a toll. She looks exhausted, and I am worried about her health. What can we do to help? Thomas asked. I was thinking we could provide a home health aide, Linda said. The company could cover the cost. It would be a few hours a day, just to help with Mrs. Horakova's care, so Jana does not have to do everything alone. Do it, Thomas said immediately. Whatever Jana needs, make it happen. Send me the details, and I will approve it. Linda smiled. I thought you would say that. You have a soft spot for her. She changed my life, Thomas said simply. Helping her is the least I can do. When Linda told Jana about the home health aide, Jana protested. I cannot accept this, she said. It is too much. It is already arranged, Linda said firmly. An aide will start tomorrow. She will come for 4 hours each day to help with Mrs. Horakova's care. This is not negotiable, Jana. Let people help you. Jana felt overwhelmed by gratitude. She went to Thomas's office later that day and knocked on the door. He looked up from his computer and smiled when he saw her. Jana, come in. What can I do for you? I came to thank you, Jana said, for the home health aide. You did not have to do that. I wanted to, Thomas said. You have been taking care of everyone else. Someone needs to take care of you. Jana sat down in the chair across from his desk. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why do you keep helping me? Jana asked. I know you said that meeting Emma and me changed something for you, but I do not understand why you care so much about what happens to us. You barely know us. Thomas was quiet for a long moment, considering his answer. When I found you that night with Emma, he finally said, it was like looking into a mirror of everything I had failed to be. You were sacrificing everything for your child, putting her needs before your own, doing whatever it took to give her a good life. I had never done that for my son. I chose work over him every single time. Seeing your dedication to Emma made me realize how badly I had failed Jakob. He paused, his expression distant. But it was more than that. Looking at you, I saw someone who had lost everything but kept going. You had more courage in your exhaustion than I had in all my success. You reminded me that the measure of a person is not how much money they make or how powerful they become. It is how they treat the people who depend on them. It is about showing up and being present and caring, about something more than yourself. Jana listened, seeing the pain and regret in his face. So helping me is about making amends, she said softly. Partly, Thomas admitted. But it is also simpler than that. I help you because I care about you and Emma. You have become important to me. Your happiness matters to me. Watching you build a better life gives me more satisfaction than any business deal ever has. Jana felt tears in her eyes. You have given us so much. I do not know how I will ever repay you. You do not need to repay me, Thomas said. Just keep being the amazing mother and person you are. Keep working toward your dreams. That is all I ask. Jana wiped her eyes. Thank you, Thomas, for everything. You are welcome, he said. Now go home and rest. Let the aide help with Mrs. Horakova. Take care of yourself. The home health aide made a tremendous difference. She was a kind woman named Marketa, who had years of experience caring for elderly patients. She would arrive at noon each day and help Mrs. Horakova with lunch, medication, physical therapy exercises, and personal care. This freed Jana to focus on work during the day, without constantly worrying. Slowly, Mrs. Horokova began to improve. After 6 weeks, she could walk short distances with a walker. After 8 weeks, she could manage a few stairs with assistance. The physical therapist was pleased with her progress. By early spring, 3 months after the accident, Mrs. Horokova was ready to return to her own apartment. Jana helped her move back in, making sure everything was arranged for easy access. They installed railings on the stairs and in the bathroom. Jana checked on her every day, but Mrs. Horokova was regaining her independence. Life began to settle back into a more normal rhythm. But the experience had changed something fundamental in Jana. She had seen how fragile security could be, how quickly things could fall apart. Mrs. Horokova's accident had reminded her that she was still just one crisis away from disaster. She needed to keep building her future, keep moving forward, because nothing was guaranteed. Spring brought renewal and hope. The crisis with Mrs. Horokova had passed, and life returned to a comfortable routine. Jana threw herself into her work with renewed energy. She was excelling in her role as assistant department manager. Linda had given her more autonomy, and she was handling it well. The team respected her and came to her with questions and problems. She had found her place. Emma was thriving too. She was 4.5 now, bright and curious and full of questions about everything. She loved the childcare center and had made best friends with a girl named Clara. The two of them were inseparable, always playing together and making up elaborate imaginary games. Jana continued taking classes toward her education degree. She was halfway through now, maintaining excellent grades despite the demands of work and motherhood. Her professors praised her dedication and the quality of her work. She could see the finish line, still distant but visible. Another 1.5 years and she would have her degree. Then she could pursue her dream of teaching. But something was stirring in Jana, a restlessness she could not quite name. She was grateful for everything she had, grateful beyond words for how her life had transformed. Yet there was a part of her that felt incomplete. She realized with some surprise that she was lonely. Not the desperate survival loneliness of the past, but a different kind. She missed having a partner, someone to share her life with, someone to talk to at the end of the day. She had loved Martin deeply, and his loss had devastated her. For years she had been too consumed with survival to think about romance. But now that her life was stable, now that she had space to breathe, she found herself wanting companionship again. She felt guilty about these feelings, as if wanting to find love again somehow betrayed Martin's memory. She talked to Mrs. Horokova about it one evening. They were having tea in Mrs. Horokova's apartment, Emma playing on the floor with her dolls. "I think I might be ready to start dating again," Jana said quietly. "But I feel terrible even saying that out loud." "Why would you feel terrible?" Mrs. Horokova asked. "Because of Martin," Jana said. "It feels like I am forgetting him or replacing him." Mrs. Horokova set down her teacup and took Jana's hand. "My dear girl, Martin has been gone for 3 years. You have mourned him and honored his memory by being an excellent mother to his daughter. But you are still young. You have so much life ahead of you. Martin would not want you to spend it alone." "Do you really think so?" Jana asked. "I know so," Mrs. Horokova said firmly. "When my husband died, people told me I should find someone new. I was 50 then, not as young as you are now. I chose not to because I did not want to. But that was my choice. If you want companionship, if you want love again, there is nothing wrong with that. You are not betraying anyone. You are simply living your life." Jana felt relief at hearing these words. "Thank you," she said. "I needed to hear that." The question is, where does a single mother with no free time meet someone? Mrs. Horakova asked with a slight smile. "I have no idea," Jana admitted. "I have not dated in years. I do not even know where to start." "Maybe you should try one of those internet dating websites," Mrs. Horakova suggested. "Everyone uses them now. I read an article about it in the newspaper." Jana laughed. "I am not sure I am ready for that. It sounds intimidating." "Well, think about it," Mrs. Horakova said. "You deserve to be happy, Jana. You deserve to have someone who loves you and supports you." Jana did think about it. Over the following weeks, she found herself paying more attention to the men around her, wondering if there might be someone she could connect with. But the opportunities seemed limited. Most of her co-workers were married or not her type. She did not go out to social places where she might meet people. Her life was work, Emma, classes, and sleep. There was not much room for romance. Then something unexpected happened. Thomas invited Jana and Emma to dinner. It was a Saturday evening in late April. Thomas called Jana and said he wanted to thank her properly for everything she had taught him over the past year. He suggested a nice restaurant, child-friendly but upscale. "I want Emma to come too," he said. "This is about both of you." Jana was surprised but agreed. She dressed Emma in her nicest dress and wore a simple blue dress herself. They took a taxi to the restaurant, another luxury Jana still was not entirely comfortable with. Thomas was already there when they arrived, sitting at a table by the window. He stood when he saw them and smiled warmly. He was dressed casually, more relaxed than Jana had ever seen him at work. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Please, sit." The dinner was lovely. Thomas had ordered ahead, making sure there were options Emma would enjoy. They talked easily, the conversation flowing naturally. Thomas asked Emma about school and her friends. Emma chattered happily, completely comfortable with him. Jana watched Thomas interact with her daughter and felt something shift inside her. He was so gentle with Emma, so genuinely interested in what she had to say. He asked thoughtful questions and listened to her answers as if they were the most important thing in the world. It reminded Jana of Martin, how he had been with Emma in those precious 8 months before he died. After they finished eating and Emma was occupied with a coloring book the restaurant had provided, Thomas turned to Jana with a more serious expression. "I want to talk to you about something," he said. "Of course," Jana replied. "What is it?" "I have been thinking a lot lately about my life and what I want," Thomas said. "Running the company is rewarding, but it is not enough anymore. I want more balance. I want relationships that matter. I have been working on rebuilding my connection with Jakub, and that has been good. But I have also realized that I want other meaningful relationships in my life." He paused, seeming to gather his thoughts. "You and Emma have become very important to me. Spending time with you, watching Emma grow, it has brought me more joy than anything else in my life right now. I know our relationship started in unusual circumstances, and I know I am your employer, which complicates things. But I wanted to tell you how I feel." Jana felt her heart begin to race. She thought she knew where this was going, but she was afraid to assume. "What are you saying, Thomas?" "I am saying that I have developed feelings for you," he said quietly. "Real feelings, not just appreciation or gratitude. I think about you constantly. I look forward. to our conversations. When something good happens, my first instinct is to tell you about it. I know this might be unwelcome. I know I am older than you, and I am your boss, and there is a power imbalance that makes this complicated. If you do not feel the same way, I will completely understand, and nothing will change at work. But I had to tell you the truth. Jana sat very still, processing this confession. Part of her had suspected Thomas cared for her as more than an employee. There had been moments, glances that lasted a bit too long, conversations that felt more personal than professional. But she had dismissed these as her imagination. Now here was confirmation that she had not imagined it. The question was, how did she feel? She examined her own heart honestly. Thomas was kind and generous and thoughtful. He had changed her life in ways she could never repay. He was intelligent and successful, but also humble enough to admit his mistakes and work to correct them. He was wonderful with Emma. And yes, she found him attractive. But was she ready for this? Was she ready to open her heart again after losing Martin? And what about the complications he mentioned, the power imbalance, and the fact that he was her employer? "I need time to think," she said finally. "This is unexpected, and I want to give you an honest answer, but I need to process my feelings first." "Of course," Thomas said immediately. "Take all the time you need. I am not trying to pressure you. I just wanted to be honest about where I stand." They finished dinner, and Thomas drove them home. The ride was slightly awkward, but not uncomfortable. When they arrived at Jana's building, Thomas walked them to the door. "Thank you for a lovely evening," Jana said. "Regardless of anything else, I want you to know how much I value your friendship." "I value yours too," Thomas said. "Whatever you decide, that will not change." Jana spent the next week thinking about almost nothing else. She talked to Mrs. Horakova, who was delighted by the development. "He is a good man," Mrs. Horakova said, "and he clearly adores you and Emma." "What is holding you back?" "I am scared," Jana admitted. "What if I let myself care for him, and then something happens? What if I lose him like I lost Martin? I do not think I could survive that pain again." "You cannot live your life in fear of loss," Mrs. Horakova said gently. "Loss is part of living. Love is always a risk, but it is a risk worth taking." She also talked to Sarah at work, swearing her to secrecy. Sarah was equally enthusiastic. "He is perfect for you," Sarah said. "I have seen how he looks at you. That man is smitten, and from what you have told me, he treats Emma like she is his own daughter. That is rare. Most men run from single mothers. He embraces it." "I know," Jana said. "That is what makes this so scary. It feels too good to be true." "Maybe it is just true," Sarah suggested. "Maybe you have earned some happiness after everything you have been through." Jana also thought about Emma. Her daughter deserved to have a father figure in her life. She was young enough that she did not remember Martin well, which broke Jana's heart, but also meant she would not feel like someone was trying to replace him. Emma already loved Thomas. She talked about him constantly, Mr. Svoboda this and Mr. Svoboda that. If Jana started a relationship with Thomas, it would give Emma something she desperately needed. But that could not be the only reason. Jana had to want this for herself, too. After a week of reflection, Jana realized that she did want it. She had feelings for Thomas that went beyond gratitude. She enjoyed his company. She respected his intelligence and his willingness to grow and change. She was attracted to him. And yes, she could imagine building a life with him. The fear was still there, the terror of loving someone and losing them. But Mrs. Horakova was right. She could not let fear stop her from living. She called Thomas and asked if they could talk. He suggested meeting for coffee the next day during her lunch break. They met at a small cafe near the office. Thomas looked nervous, something Jana had rarely seen from him. She realized he was genuinely worried about her answer, that her opinion mattered deeply to him. "I have thought about what you said," Jana began, "and I want you to know that I have feelings for you too. I have been attracted to you for a while now, but I did not let myself acknowledge it because the situation seemed too complicated." Thomas's face lit up with hope. "Does that mean you are willing to explore this, to see where it might go?" "Yes," Jana said, "but I need to set some boundaries. I do not want our personal relationship to affect my job. I have worked hard to build my career, and I do not want people thinking I am advancing because of who I am dating." "I understand," Thomas said. "We can keep it private at first if you want, and I promise that your professional growth will always be based on merit." "I also need to go slowly," Jana continued. "Emma has to be the priority. I cannot introduce her to the idea of us being together until I am sure this is serious and lasting. I would never want to confuse her or hurt her." "Absolutely," Thomas agreed. "We will move at whatever pace you need. Emma's well-being comes first. I would not have it any other way." "There is one more thing," Jana said. "I need you to meet someone. Someone whose opinion matters very much to me." "Who?" Thomas asked. "Mrs. Horakova," Jana said. "She has been like a mother to me since Martin died. If we are going to do this, I need her blessing." "I would be honored to meet her properly," Thomas said, "whenever you are ready to arrange it." They started dating slowly and carefully. Thomas would take Jana to lunch during work hours, keeping things professional. On weekends, they would meet for coffee or walks in the park, sometimes with Emma, and sometimes just the two of them, when Mrs. Horakova could watch Emma. They talked for hours, sharing their histories and dreams, learning about each other in deeper ways. Jana learned that Thomas loved classical music and had once wanted to be a violinist before practical concerns pushed him toward business. He learned that Jana wrote poetry in the margins of her notebooks, beautiful verses about loss and hope that she had never shown anyone. They discovered they both loved old movies and terrible puns and rainy Sunday mornings. The connection between them deepened. Thomas was patient, never pushing for more than Jana was ready to give. He understood that she was healing from loss and that trust had to be earned slowly. He was content to simply spend time with her, to hear her voice, to see her smile. One evening, Jana invited Thomas to dinner at her apartment so he could spend time with Mrs. Horakova. The older woman came upstairs, and they all sat around Jana's small table, eating the simple meal Jana had prepared. Mrs. Horakova studied Thomas carefully throughout the evening, asking him questions about his life and his intentions. Thomas answered honestly, holding nothing back. He talked about his failed marriage and his regret over not being present for Jakub. He talked about how meeting Jana had changed his perspective on everything. He talked about his feelings for Jana and his commitment to being worthy of her trust. Mrs. Horakova listened intently. Finally, she said, "You are a good man, Thomas Svoboda. I can see that. But Jana has been hurt enough in her life. If you are going to be part of her world and Emma's world, you must be certain you are in this for the long term." "I am certain," Thomas said without hesitation. "I have never been more certain of anything." "Then you have my blessing," Mrs. Horakova said. "Take care of my girls." "I will," Thomas promised. "With my whole heart, I will." After that evening, things shifted between Jana and Thomas. The relationship felt more real, more solid. They were building something together. 3 months after they started dating, Thomas invited Jana and Emma to spend a weekend at his lake house. It was a beautiful property, an hour outside the city, peaceful and secluded. Emma was thrilled by the adventure. She had never stayed anywhere so nice. The house sat on the shore of a pristine lake surrounded by forest. There was a dock with a small boat and a screened porch with comfortable furniture. Inside the house was spacious but decorated simply, more comfortable than ostentatious. "This is beautiful," Jana said as they arrived. "I come here when I need to think," Thomas said. "It is my refuge from the world. I wanted to share it with you." That weekend was magical. They spent Saturday morning on the lake in the boat, Emma wearing a life jacket and squealing with delight as Thomas rowed them around. They had a picnic lunch on the shore. In the afternoon, Emma napped on the porch while Jana and Thomas sat together talking and watching the water. That evening, after Emma went to sleep in one of the guest bedrooms, Jana and Thomas sat on the porch under the stars. The night was clear and quiet, except for the sound of water lapping against the shore. "This feels like a dream," Jana said softly. "Sometimes I am afraid I will wake up and find out none of this is real." "It is real," Thomas said. He took her hand. "I am real, and this is real, and what we have is real." Jana looked at him, this man who had entered her life so unexpectedly and changed everything. "I love you," she said. The words came out before she could second-guess them. "I did not plan to say that tonight, but it is true. I love you, Thomas." Thomas felt something break open in his chest. He had hoped she felt this way, but hearing the words was overwhelming. "I love you too," he said. His voice was rough with emotion. "I have loved you for months. I was just waiting for the right time to tell you." They kissed then, gentle and sweet, a promise of everything they could build together. The weekend ended too quickly. On Sunday evening they drove back to the city. Emma fell asleep in the back seat. Jana watched the landscape pass by the window and felt peace settle over her. She had been alone for so long, carrying all the weight by herself. Now she had a partner, someone who wanted to share the burden and the joy. Over the next few months, their relationship deepened. Thomas met Jakub and introduced him to Jana and Emma. The meeting went better than Thomas had dared hope. Jakub was warm and friendly to Jana, clearly seeing how happy she made his father. He was wonderful with Emma, getting down on the floor to play with her toys and treating her with genuine affection. After that first meeting, Jakub started visiting more often. His relationship with Thomas continued to heal. They were building something new, father and son finding their way back to each other. In the fall, a year after that first night when Thomas had found Jana and Emma in the office, Thomas made a decision. He was ready to take the next step. He went shopping for a ring, something elegant but not ostentatious. He knew Jana would not want something flashy. He found a simple band with a single diamond, beautiful in its understated perfection. He planned carefully. He wanted the proposal to be meaningful, to honor what they had built together. He decided to do it at the lake house, the place where they had first said, "I love you." He invited Jana and Emma for a weekend in late October, when the leaves were brilliant with autumn colors. On Saturday evening after dinner, after Emma was in bed, Thomas asked Jana to take a walk with him down to the dock. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. They stood together at the end of the dock, looking out over the water. "Jana," Thomas began. His heart was pounding. "A year ago, I was a lonely man who had lost sight of what mattered. I had success and money, but no joy, no purpose beyond making more money. Then I found you and Emma, and everything changed. You showed me what it means to be brave and selfless. You reminded me that the most important things in life are not things at all. They are people and connections and love." He got down on one knee. Jana gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you," Thomas said. "I want to be Emma's father and your husband. I want to build a family with you, a real family based on love and presence and showing up for each other every single day. Jana Novakova, will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Jana's face. She was crying and laughing at the same time. "Yes," she said. "Yes, Thomas, I will marry you." He slipped the ring on her finger and stood up and kissed her. They held each other as the sun finished setting and the stars began to appear. "This is perfect," Jana whispered. "You are perfect. We are perfect together." They walked back to the house, hand in hand. Jana was glowing with happiness. When they got inside, they found Emma standing in the hallway in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "I had a dream," Emma said sleepily. Then she noticed their faces. "Why are you both smiling so big?" "Come here, my little bird," Jana said. She picked Emma up and held her. "Mr. Svoboda and I have something to tell you." Emma looked between them with curious eyes. Thomas knelt down so he was at Emma's level. "Emma," he said gently, "I asked your mama to marry me, and she said yes. That means I am going to be your new papa, if that is okay with you. Would you like that?" Emma's face lit up with pure joy. "Really? You will be my papa?" "Really and truly," Thomas said, "if you will have me." Emma launched herself at Thomas, wrapping her small arms around his neck. "Yes, yes, yes," she said. "I always wanted a papa. Now I have one." Thomas held Emma close, this child who had become his daughter in every way that mattered. Jana watched them together and felt her heart overflow with love and gratitude. They spent the rest of the weekend making plans and dreaming about the future. Emma wanted to know everything about the wedding. Would she get to wear a fancy dress? Could she be a flower girl? Would there be cake? Jana and Thomas answered all her questions patiently, delighting in her excitement. When they returned to the city on Sunday evening, Jana immediately went to tell Mrs. Horakova the news. The older woman embraced her tightly, tears of joy streaming down her face. "I am so happy for you, my dear girl," Mrs. Horakova said. "You deserve this happiness more than anyone I know. Thomas has proven himself to be a good man. You are going to have a beautiful life together." Jana also called Sarah, who screamed with excitement and demanded to see the ring immediately. The next day at work, Sarah grabbed Jana's hand and examined the engagement ring with approval. "It is perfect," Sarah declared. "Simple and elegant, just like you." "When is the wedding?" "We have not decided yet," Jana said. "Soon, though. We do not want a long engagement. We have waited long enough already." They decided on a small wedding in the spring, 6 months away. Just close friends and family at a simple ceremony, followed by dinner at a nice restaurant. Jana did not want anything elaborate. She had been married once in a big traditional wedding with hundreds of guests. This time she wanted something intimate and meaningful. The planning was joyful rather than stressful. Mrs. Horakova helped Jana find a dress, something cream-colored and simple that made her look radiant. Emma got her wish for a fancy dress, a pale pink gown that made her feel like a princess. Thomas asked Jakub to be his best man. Jakub accepted with tears in his eyes, deeply moved by the gesture. Jana asked Sra to be her maid of honor. The months before the wedding were busy but happy. Jana continued working and taking her classes. She was getting close to finishing her degree now, only one more year to go. Thomas continued running his company, but with better balance than before. He made sure to be home for dinner most nights, to spend weekends with Jana and Emma, to prioritize family over work. He had learned that lesson well. In March, 2 months before the wedding, Thomas suggested they start looking for a house. The apartment Jana shared with Emma was too small for all three of them, and Thomas's penthouse was too cold and corporate, not a place for a family. They spent weekends touring properties, looking for something that felt right. Emma went with them, offering her opinions on each house with the seriousness of someone making a very important decision. They finally found the perfect place in a quiet neighborhood with good schools. It was a 2-story house with 4 bedrooms, a yard with trees, and a porch where they could sit on summer evenings. It was not the biggest or fanciest house they had looked at, but it felt like home. "This is the one," Jana said the moment they walked in. Thomas agreed. Emma ran through the rooms claiming which one would be her bedroom. They made an offer that day, and it was accepted. They would move in after the wedding. As the wedding approached, Jana felt a mix of emotions. She was deeply happy and excited about marrying Thomas and starting this new chapter. But she also felt grief rising up, grief for Martin and the life they had planned that would never be. She visited Martin's grave for the first time in months. She brought flowers and sat on the grass beside his headstone. "I am getting married again," she told him quietly. "His name is Thomas, and he is a good man. He loves Emma like she is his own daughter. He loves me in a way that feels safe and steady. I think you would approve. I hope you would approve." She sat there crying for a while, mourning what she had lost, even as she prepared to embrace what she had found. Finally, she stood up and placed her hand on the headstone. "Thank you for Emma," she said. "Thank you for the time we had together. I will never forget you, Martin, but I am ready to move forward now. I am ready to live again." The wedding day arrived bright and clear. It was a perfect spring morning, warm with a gentle breeze. Jana woke up early in her apartment for the last time. Mrs. Horakova came upstairs to help her get ready. She did Jana's hair in a simple updo and helped her into the cream-colored dress. "You look beautiful," Mrs. Horakova said. "Absolutely. Beautiful. How do you feel?" "Happy," Jana said. "Nervous, but happy. Scared, but happy. All of it at once." "That is exactly how you should feel," Mrs. Horakova said. "Marriage is a leap of faith, but you are leaping with the right person." The ceremony was held in a small chapel with wooden pews and stained glass windows. There were only 30 guests, but they were the people who mattered most. Mrs. Horakova sat in the front row dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Sarah stood next to Jana as maid of honor. Jakub stood next to his father, looking proud. Emma walked down the aisle first, scattering flower petals with intense concentration. Then Jana entered on Mrs. Horakova's arm, having asked the older woman to give her away, since she had no father. Thomas stood at the altar, watching Jana walk toward him and felt his breath catch. She was radiant, glowing with happiness. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the moment everything came together. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt. They exchanged traditional vows, promising to love and honor each other for the rest of their lives. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Thomas kissed Jana tenderly. Emma cheered loudly, making everyone laugh. The reception was held at a restaurant overlooking the river. There were speeches and toasts. Jakub spoke about watching his father transform over the past year, about seeing him become the man Jakub had always wished he could be. He welcomed Jana and Emma into the family with genuine warmth. Sarah spoke about Jana's strength and resilience, about how she had survived the unimaginable and built a beautiful life for herself and her daughter. She said that Thomas was the luckiest man in the world to have won Jana's heart. Mrs. Horakova spoke briefly, her voice trembling with emotion. She said she had watched Jana go through the darkest times and never give up hope. She said she was proud to have been part of Jana's journey and grateful to welcome Thomas into their little family. When it was time for the first dance, Thomas led Jana onto the floor. They swayed together to a slow song, holding each other close. "This is the happiest day of my life," Thomas whispered in her ear. "Mine too," Jana said. "Though there have been many happy days since I met you, every day with you is a gift." As they danced, Jana looked around the room at all the people who had supported her, who had helped her survive and thrive. She thought about how far she had come from that terrified night when she had brought Emma to work, convinced she was about to lose everything. That night had been the turning point, the moment when everything changed. If Mrs. Horakova had not gotten sick, if Jana had not made the desperate choice to bring Emma to the office, if Thomas had not been working late that particular evening, none of this would have happened. It was a series of small chances that had led to this moment. Life was strange that way, Jana thought. The worst moments could lead to the best outcomes. The times when you felt most desperate and alone could be the times when help arrived from the most unexpected places. You just had to keep going, keep trying, keep believing that things could get better. After the reception ended, after all the guests had gone home, Thomas and Jana and Emma went to their new house. They had moved their belongings in over the past week, but tonight was the first night they would all sleep there together as a family. Emma was exhausted from the excitement of the day. Jana tucked her into bed in her new room, kissing her forehead. "Good night, my little bird," she whispered. "Sweet dreams." "Good night, Mama," Emma said sleepily. "Good night, Papa." The word Papa still made Thomas's heart swell every time he heard it. "Good night, Emma," he said from the doorway. "Sleep well." They left her door cracked open with a nightlight glowing softly. Then Thomas and Jana walked hand in hand to their own room. They stood together looking out the window at the backyard, at the trees swaying gently in the night breeze. "We did it," Jana said softly. "We really did it. We built something beautiful." "We did," Thomas agreed. "And this is just the beginning. There is so much more ahead of us." Jana leaned against him, feeling safe and loved and home. She thought about Martin and sent him a silent thank you for giving her Emma, for teaching her what love meant, for preparing her to love again. She thought about Mrs. Horakova and her endless support. She thought about Sarah and her friendship. She thought about every person who had helped her along the way. Most of all, she thought about the man standing beside her, this unexpected gift who had appeared when she needed him most. Thomas had saved her that night in the office, but she had saved him too. They had saved each other. That was what love did. It rescued you from loneliness and gave you a reason to keep going. It transformed you into a better version of yourself. It made the impossible possible. 5 years passed like a beautiful dream. Jana finished her education degree and started teaching at an elementary school near their home. She loved the work, loved shaping young minds and making a difference in children's lives. Every day, she thought about how close she had come to never achieving this dream. Every day, she felt grateful that she had been given a second chance. Emma was 9 years old now, bright and confident and full of life. She excelled in school and had many friends. She had no memory of the tiny apartment where she and Jana had once lived, no memory of the desperate years of struggle. Her childhood was filled with love and security and opportunity. She called Thomas Papa without hesitation and could not imagine life without him. Thomas had stepped back from some of his responsibilities at Svoboda Industries, hiring a chief operating officer to handle day-to-day operations. He still served as chairman of the board, but spent less time in the office and more time at home. He attended every one of Emma's school events. He coached her soccer team. He helped her with her homework. He was the father he had never been to Jakub, though he and his son had also built a strong relationship over the years. Jakub had finished university and was teaching at a school for at-risk youth, doing exactly what he had dreamed of. He visited often, bringing his girlfriend Maria, a kind woman who worked as a social worker. They were talking about getting married soon. Thomas looked forward to these visits, to seeing his son happy and fulfilled. The relationship he had once thought was broken beyond repair had healed through patience and genuine effort. Mrs. Horakova was 83 now, but still sharp and active. She had her own room in their house, having moved in 2 years after the wedding, when climbing the stairs to her apartment became too difficult. She was family in every sense that mattered. Emma called her Grandma Vera and spent hours listening to her stories. The older woman had found purpose and joy in being part of their lives. On a Saturday morning in early summer, Jana woke up before everyone else in the house. She made coffee and sat on the back porch watching the sunrise. The yard was beautiful, flowers blooming in the beds she and Emma had planted together. A vegetable garden grew in one corner, Thomas's project that he tended with surprising dedication. She heard footsteps behind her and smiled as Thomas joined her, handing her a fresh cup of coffee and settling into the chair beside her. "Beautiful morning," he said. "It is," Jana agreed. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, just being together. After 5 years of marriage, they had learned the value of these quiet moments. "What are you thinking about?" Thomas asked eventually. "I was thinking about that night," Jana said. "The night you found Emma and me in your office. How terrified I was. How certain I was that my life was over. And look at us now," Thomas said softly. "Look at what we built from that moment of fear." Jana reached over and took his hand. "You changed my life that night. You gave me hope when I had none left. You gave Emma and me a future." "I changed my own life that night too," Thomas said. "I was lost and did not even know it. Finding you and Emma showed me the way back to being human." They heard sounds from inside the house. Emma was awake, her footsteps running down the stairs. A moment later, she burst through the door onto the porch. "Good morning," she said cheerfully. "What are we doing today?" "Whatever you want, my little bird," Jana said. It is Saturday. The day is ours. Can we go to the park? Emma asked, and maybe get ice cream? Of course, Thomas said. That sounds perfect. Mrs. Horokova appeared in the doorway, moving slowly but steadily. Did I hear someone mention ice cream? You did? Emma said, running over to take her hand. We are all going to the park and then getting ice cream. You are coming too, Grandma Vera. I would not miss it, Mrs. Horokova said with a smile. They spent the day together as a family, the four of them. They went to the park where Emma played on the swings, while the adults sat on a bench watching her. They got ice cream from the shop on the corner, Emma getting chocolate as always, Jana getting strawberry, Thomas getting vanilla, Mrs. Horokova getting mint chip. They walked home slowly, Emma skipping ahead and then running back to tell them about something she had seen. That evening, after Emma was in bed and Mrs. Horokova had retired to her room, Jana and Thomas sat together on the couch. Thomas had his arm around Jana, and she leaned against him, perfectly content. Do you ever think about what your life would be like if we had never met? Jana asked. Sometimes, Thomas admitted. I think I would still be alone in that penthouse, working myself to death, wondering why success felt so empty. I think I would have missed out on the best parts of life. I think about it too, Jana said. I think I would have kept surviving, but never really living. I would have raised Emma as best I could, but we would have struggled constantly. I might have given up on my dreams entirely. We saved each other, Thomas said. That is what I believe. We appeared in each other's lives at exactly the right moment. Jana nodded. I used to think that night when I brought Emma to work was the worst mistake I ever made. I was so ashamed and terrified. But it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Sometimes our darkest moments lead to our greatest blessings, Thomas said. Sometimes the universe puts people in our path exactly when we need them. They sat together in the quiet house, surrounded by the life they had built together. Outside the window, the stars were appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere in the city, other people were struggling like Jana had struggled, wondering if things would ever get better, trying to survive one day at a time. Jana thought about those people and sent them a silent wish. She hoped they would find their own moments of grace, their own unexpected rescues, their own reasons to keep hoping, because life could change so quickly. One moment you could be at your lowest point, convinced that you were out of options and out of luck. The next moment, help could arrive from the most unexpected source. A stranger could become family. A crisis could become an opportunity. Desperation could transform into hope. Jana had learned that the hard way. She had learned that you had to keep going even when everything seemed impossible. You had to keep showing up and doing your best, and believing that somewhere ahead there was light. Because sometimes there was. Sometimes the story had a happy ending. Sometimes the single mother, cleaning offices at night, met the lonely executive who had forgotten what mattered. Sometimes they fell in love and built a family and created something beautiful from their broken pieces. Sometimes the little girl, in pink pajamas, clutching a stuffed bear, got a father who adored her. Sometimes the elderly widow found purpose in caring for the people who became her family. Sometimes everything worked out in ways no one could have predicted. That was the story Jana would tell Emma someday, when she was old enough to understand. She would tell her about the night that changed everything, about being brave enough to ask for help, about the kindness of strangers who became family. She would tell her that no matter how dark things seemed, There was always hope for something better. Always a chance that tomorrow could be different than today. Always the possibility of grace. For now, though, Jana simply sat with her husband in their peaceful home and felt grateful for every single moment that had led her here. The struggle had been real and painful and almost unbearable at times, but it had brought her to this place, to this life, to this love. And that made every hardship worth it. In the end, this was what mattered. Not money or success or status. Not the size of your house or the prestige of your job. What mattered was love. Love for your child, love for your partner, love for the family you built, whether by blood or by choice. What mattered was showing up for the people who depended on you. What mattered was kindness and connection, and the courage to keep trying when everything felt hopeless. Jana had learned these lessons through pain and loss and desperation, but she had learned them well, and now she had the rest of her life to live by them, to teach them to Emma, to create a legacy of love that would outlast any achievement or acquisition. She closed her eyes and sent a thought out into the universe, a message to anyone who might be where she had once been. Hold on, she thought. Keep going. Help might be closer than you think. Your life can change in an instant. One moment, one encounter, one act of unexpected kindness can alter everything. Do not give up. The story is not over yet. And sometimes, just sometimes, the ending is more beautiful than you ever dared to imagine.